Somewhere right now, a 17-year-old is watching a tutorial on how to break his own face. The tool was designed for masonry, but the video has 4 million views. And the strangest part is that the comment section is not alarmed. Almost everyone is offering tips or notes. The 17-year-old is not recovering from an injury and does not have a medical condition, though an argument can be made for insanity. He is doing it because the forum calculated that his mid-face ratio is suboptimal. And the forum has a solution. That should sound like the extreme end of this conversation. It is not. This is now a normal Tuesday. There are communities right now where men rate each other's faces out of 10 as a daily activity, where teenagers are injecting pharmaceutical compounds designed for livestock into their bodies, undergoing irreversible surgeries at 19, breaking their own facial bones with the specific intention of healing into a better shape. They are not doing any of this casually. They are doing it with the discipline and long-term commitment of someone training for the Olympics. The question this investigation is not asking is whether this is healthy. The question is what these people already know that everyone else is pretending not to. Good evening. Coming to you from my library, where tonight's case file is about a generation that looked at the world, ran the numbers, and decided the only rational response was to become unignorable. Let's define the terms. We have softmaxing, which is only the entry point. Skincare, a better haircut, the gym. This is the part that seems reasonable. This is also the part that functions as the on-ramp. Hard maxing is what comes after. Mewing, bone smashing, jaw surgery, leg lengthening, pharmaceutical compounds designed for cattle, repurposed as appearance tools with documented long-term health consequences.
Sweet Jesus. Bone smashing? That's just sick, man.
But why do you sound so offended?
Wouldn't you be? Me finds this culturally insensitive.
Culturally?
Don't you mortals understand? Underneath all that disgusting meat packaging, you are bones. We are the foundation of biology, the original architecture, the calcium infrastructure holding this whole ugly species together. And now there are boys out here beating the Panda Express out them own jaws. Enough is enough, Winston. Stop the marrow hate.
Well, Toombs, now someone on the internet is offended by your ideology. The vocabulary inside these communities is its own language. Canthal tilt, hunter eyes, the look scale, looks rotting. The halo effect is not a concept they discovered. It is a variable they are trying to exploit. The reach of this is not fringe. Mewing tutorials have hundreds of millions of combined views. The GigaChad image has become the aspirational standard for an entire generation. There was a Korean webtoon called Lookism about a boy with 2 bodies. His real one, which is very unattractive, and then a second body, which is conventionally handsome, that he inhabits while the original body sleeps. The same intelligence, same personality, same history. The only variable is the face. He receives different treatment from teachers, employers, strangers on the street, living 2 completely different lives. It became one of the most read webtoons in the world, not as escapism, but as confirmation of what these communities already believe to be true. These communities read the research. They know what the compounds do to their liver. They know how the surgeries are irreversible. They know bone smashing has no peer-reviewed evidence behind it, but they are doing it anyways. And the question none of the coverage ever asks is, why does the potential return feel worth the cost? Pretty privilege is not a secret. Notice the halo effect, a documented cognitive bias where attractive people are assumed to be more intelligent, more competent, more trustworthy. This has been in peer-reviewed literature for decades. Attractive people are paid more, convicted less, and promoted faster. This is not just a feeling people have. It has also been measured repeatedly.
So the Looksmaxxing community is not operating on delusion. They identified a variable that produces real outcomes and decided to optimize it?
That's right. This should make them the most rational people in this conversation. But here is the contradiction. The same men who studied the halo effect most carefully are the same men spending 6 hours a day chewing mastic gum and tracking facial measurements across months of bone smashing. Knowing the system is rigged did not free them from it, it made them more trapped inside it. That is not what happens when someone makes a rational decision about a rigged game. That is what happens when someone cannot locate the exit. Kafka wrote The Metamorphosis in 1915. A man named Gregor Samsa wakes up transformed into a large insect. His mind is unchanged. His love for his family is unchanged. He is the same person in every way that matters internally, but none of that matters. The moment the body becomes something his family cannot look at comfortably, his worth evaporates. Not through cruelty, through the perfectly ordinary logic of a world that only has room for Gregor when he was presentable. His family does not just stop loving him because he is monstrous. They stop because he is also inconvenient to look at. The Looksmaxxing community lived the social media version of that story. In school hallways, in match rates, and the specific quality of attention a room pays to different people walking through the same door. And they made a decision. They were not going to be Gregor.
People always asking, would you still love me if me was a worm? And Kafka said, hell nah, man. Gregor turned into one bug, and suddenly unconditional love packed a suitcase. That's the ugly truth. Some people don't love you unconditionally. They just love the version of you that don't embarrass them in public.
That is the question the story leaves open. And it is the same question the Looksmaxxing community has already answered for themselves, and the only direction the evidence is pointing. These are not vain people. Vanity is comfortable with itself. Vanity does not spend 18 months tracking millimeter changes in jaw angle in forums where strangers rate your face with clinical detachment. What is actually happening looks less like narcissism and more like something far older. In nature, the most successful animals are not always the strongest. They are often the most visually compelling. The peacock's tail serves no functional purpose. It makes the bird slower, more visible to predators, and metabolically expensive to maintain. But it works. The display signals genetic fitness. The display determines access to resources and position in the hierarchy. Humans operate like animals. We share the architecture completely. We just develop the cognitive capacity to feel embarrassed about it. However, that has never stopped it from operating. Every era of civilization has had its own beauty standard. Every standard has been a proxy signal for belonging to a desirable category of that moment. Pale skin typically meant nobility. You didn't work in the fields. Obesity in certain periods meant wealth. You had access to food. Foot bindings lasted 1,000 years in China as a signal of status and femininity. The specific modification changes, but the drive behind it never does.
Humans always been crazy, Winston. Pale skin, big belly, tiny feet, tall wigs.
Yes. Anything else?
Black teeth, crushed ribs, powdered face, starved waist. Every century finds a new body part and says, yes, ruin that one. Looksmaxxing is not new, man. It just got Wi-Fi and ring lights.
Right now, South Korea is a country with the highest rate of cosmetic surgery per capita on Earth. Streets in Seoul are lined almost entirely with cosmetic surgery clinics. Teenagers receive surgery as graduation gifts. Before and after photographs are displayed in clinic windows like a portfolio. The K-pop industry created a visual standard of perfection so specific they bombarded the masses with it. Now, the gap between an ordinary face and the ideal one is plastered across the streets and social media. What the West is only beginning to normalize, parts of East Asia have been running at scale for decades. This is not a new phenomenon. This is the oldest biological drive in human history, finding its newest tools. At the same time, everything else stopped feeling solvable. The degree stopped guaranteeing the job. The job stopped guaranteeing the house. The future that was promised, like working hard and building something, started dissolving at the exact moment this generation was supposed to step into it. Your face is the only project that had an answer. You cannot control whether the economy recovers. You cannot control whether the company keeps you. But you can't control the jawline. Well, not really. But you can try. You can measure the progress. You can see the change. And in a world where effort has stopped feeling like it has a guaranteed return, the face is the one variable that still responds. That is not vanity. That is a person finding the only controllable thing in an uncontrollable world and pulling it until their hands bleed. And then There is the thing nobody wants to say directly. They were lied to. Personality matters more than looks. Just be yourself. Confidence is attractive. This generation looked at that advice, looked at the actual results, and concluded correctly that the advice was wrong. The Looksmaxxing obsession is in part a generation's response to discovering that the map they were handed did not match the territory. They threw the map away and started building their own with hammers.
So they told these boys, looks don't matter, just be yourself. Then they opened Twitch and saw the truth. 10 years of professional gaming and you get 12 viewers. But a girl with one webcam, bad jokes, and a little bit of chi-chis? Top of the charts. No wonder they stopped believing the brochure, man.
The Looksmaxxing community is not wrong about what they are responding to. The halo effect is real. Pretty privilege is real. The world does allocate its warmth and opportunities differently based on appearance. The research is not ambiguous. The history is not ambiguous. The biology is not ambiguous. What they are building is a rational response to a real problem. The tragedy is not the response. The tragedy is what the response reveals about the problem. A generation that concludes the only way to be treated as fully human is to restructure their own face has not arrived at a personal failing. They have arrived at an accurate diagnosis of the environment that produced them. The bone smashing is not the disorder. The bone smashing is just a symptom of a primal drive older than civilization, of a standard the culture sets then punishes people for chasing, of a world that told them looks don't matter and then organized itself entirely around the evidence that they do. And somewhere on a forum right now, a teenager is reading a thread about the optimal age to begin facial reconstruction or leg lengthening surgery, taking careful notes and making a plan. He does not think he has a problem. He thinks he found the solution. But these are just my observations. If this case file earned your attention, feel free to leave a like, consider subscribing, and tell me what you observed in the comments below. We would also like to announce that the Eves Manor Discord is now open to guests. The channel is still small, and so is the community, but that is exactly why we wanted to start it now. If you're interested in being part of a smaller community, a place where you can be acknowledged rather than drowned out by a sea of others, where you can suggest future case files and help shape what the library becomes next, the Discord link is in the description. And until we meet again, my library will remain open.